This podcast is brought to you by Nomura Fashion Designers. No need for restraint. Just belt these outfits on and tell the haters to zip it.
Hello and welcome to Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review and discussion show with me, the Jonin Monkey.
And me, Sven the Crusader. Do pardon me if I'm a bit more muted this episode. My throat is a bastard.
Yeah, we may be in the month of May, but unfortunately the winter colds haven't completely disappeared.
Luckily, I have my good old friend Green Tea at my side, my boon companion. I've been playing a lot of Fire Emblem 7 lately.
Yeah, I can understand why.
It couldn't have anything to do with the fact that we have just finished that podcast. Anyway.
Well, we recorded it, mate. The editing is another story.
One day. In a world where recordings get done.
Oh, I wish I could live in that world.
Yeah, I wish I could live in such a productive world myself sometimes. Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah, before this gets too depressing. Okay, on to the first round, which is...
Q&A!
This is the section where we answer 6 of the questions sent to us by our listeners. If you'd like us to answer your questions, either leave it in the comments or tweet me at the Jonin Monkey with the hashtag MBQuestion. And this Q&A session's gonna be slightly special. Normally, when I'm picking questions for the backlog for each month, I try to keep it on a variety of topics and make sure we get a fair amount of people, but since we suddenly got an influx of questions about Super Smash Bros., I thought, feck it, let's get them all done at once. So, for this month, 5 of the questions are related to Super Smash Bros., so if that doesn't interest you, you might want to skip ahead a large part of this podcast.
Yeah, pretty much, because as of right now, I'm officially dubbing this Q&A
Super Smash Smackdown Special.
Ow, my throat.
Oh, yeah, maybe don't do the sales announcer.
Okay, I'm good. I had tea. And just before we get into this, I will append a note reiterating the fact that I do not own a Wii U, and I still do not own Smash Bros. For the 3DS, so my involvement in this section will be slightly limited.
Well, consider it a respite.
That's good, because I'm saving my energy for my review section. Anyway, our first question comes from Trainman666, who asks,
Who is your favorite newcomer and least favorite? Why?
Well, let's start with the positives first. Part of me really likes Lucina, but that's more because I like her, like even before she was in Smash Bros, so there's kind of a bias there.
Yeah, I understand that, because even though I haven't played the game, I was already tempted to snarkily say Lucina.
Yeah. But in terms of character and fighting style, whilst I do have a bit of a soft spot for Pac-Man or the Duck Hunt Dog for having unique movesets, for me, my favourite newcomer has to be Shulk, hands down, just because, A, I really like Xenoblade Chronicles, and I'm glad that Shulk was in and that he has his British voice actor back, but also, his fighting style is actually pretty unique and a good representation of the game. Shulk's standard B move is a technique called Monado Arts, which basically puts Shulk through different modes. Smash, shield, speed, etc. And these slightly alter his stats. He can be more defensive but slower, have more attack power but less launching power, have more launching power but do less damage, etc, etc. And this actually makes him a pretty interesting strategic character, since you have to choose which arts to have at what time and decide how you want to play each and every battle. So that's an interesting quality in itself. And he also has the vision, which is a counter, and whilst some people are saying, oh, they could have done so much more with the future vision gimmick Shulk has, I honestly fail to see how, to be blunt.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Nintendo have developed technology to predict the future themselves, so it's not like they could improve the vision by having it predict opponents' moves.
Yeah, exactly, and nothing else, that would be incredibly broken, because the way it works in Xenoblade is that Shulk will see a vision, he will see that a boss is about to use a particular attack, and that gives you like a 15-second countdown in order to basically tell the other characters to counter that move, which works fine in a tactical RPG like Xenoblade. in a fighting game, having the game suddenly stop just so you can see what the opponent's about to do and then react to it would break the flow of a match horribly. So I don't mind it being a counter, and all of the other techniques like the backslash, I do like that, again, stays true to Xenoblade by having them be more effective in different areas, like, well, the backslash hurts people more from the back, it's kind of obvious, but...
No, really? Also, yeah, it would not only break the flow of the game, it would also just... That would be damn near unbeatable, and now I'm imagining Shulk in a death battle. That would be silly. But, yeah, that would pretty much just destroy Smash Bros. If they kept it completely and 100% true to the story.
Yeah, so, honestly, I'm pretty happy with how Shulk turned out, and he's become one of my favourite fighters to use. Although I still use Donkey Kong as my main most of the time.
Yeah, I would be concerned if that ever changed.
Yeah. As for the least favourite, my answer is much shorter and much more brutal. Dark Pit by a long shot. Good cripes, there is no reason for him to be in that game. Like, the best justification I saw from the creative team was that, oh, we wanted to alter the moveset slightly, so we decided to experiment with the electroshock arm. Which might be a valid point if it wasn't for another mechanic they introduced in Smash Bros. 4, namely, custom moves! Once you have the idea that you can swap out special moves for different effects, the idea of clone characters was completely redundant. I mean, yeah, they admittedly shot themselves in the foot with custom moves by making it completely random when you got them, but that's beside the point. The point is... It's ridiculous to just have a character in just because you want to have a variation of one or two moves. And you can make the same argument with Lucina, but at least she is a different character with a different build, so it makes sense why she's not a costume. Dark Pit is literally just that. He's a dark version of Pit. Even in the freaking story of Kid Icarus Uprising, Dark Pit is an evil clone of Pit created using a magic mirror. That is it. That is literally the only bloody thing about his character. I don't care for Bowser Jr. as a character, but at least he has a completely unique fighting style, and because of the Koopalings you get 8 fighters for the price of 1. Dr. Mario I don't care for, but I guess returning fighter, he was in Melee, so that's more of a problem with Melee, but yeah, Dark Pit, I cannot see why he was included, especially since, funny thing, even with regular Pit, you can get Dark Pit's color palette.
Oh my god, it's worse than I thought. Because, as far as I remember, we've had this conversation about Dark Pit before, and in my head I'm just like, you could have done so much more with that character slot. Like, you could have had Dixie. You could have had another Fire Emblem representative, especially if you got rid of Marth, because at this point Marth is pointless. But you could have had so many other characters, but why this?
Well, the thing is, I don't really go for the you could have done so much more of that slot, because even the creators admitted the clones really didn't take that much time in memory, they were just kind of added on as an afterthought, but mine's more the case of, why was the clone even worth it to begin with? That's my query. I admit I'm not a competitive player and I haven't tested the ins and outs, but I really don't see what advantage there was for including him. Like, Ganondorf, I get. He's a Captain Falcon that focuses more on power rather than speeds. I get why that type of clone exists. I just don't get why one move is apparently enough to just bring in a completely different character. That's what...
Yeah, especially since total clone characters are now utterly pointless.
Yeah. So yeah, long and short of it, favourite newcomer Shulk, least favourite newcomer Dark Pit. So, moving on to the second question from Trainman666.
What are some of the tweaks you liked for returning characters? Example, nerfed Meta Knight.
The thing is, I never saw Meta Knight as being terribly broken, but then again, I got my ass kicked by everyone I ever fought in Smash Bros. Brawl, so I guess it all just kind of blended together.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not a competitive player. I've only just started trying to go up against serious players in full glory mode recently, and I still have a long way to go, considering I have only 1 victory out of 20, but there are two tweaks I like. One, I like the fact that Yoshi has become a lot more useful because I do kind of like his moveset, and he was kind of a good all-round fighter, but he just seemed to be very average across the board, so I do like the fact that he's been greatly improved since the earlier Smash games, and many tournament players have started using him now. And the second tweak I like is, well, I guess it's up in the air as to whether he's a returning character or a newcomer, but I personally count him as such. Charizard. He's been separated from the other Pokemon, so he doesn't have the whole return mechanic, which is nice in itself, but also there is one extra technique they've added to make up for the fact that he doesn't need a down B move to switch out anymore, and I freaking love this technique. It is known as Flare Blitz.
Oh my god. I can already imagine where this is going.
Yeah, basically, Flare Blitz, it's a very fast charge move where Charizard charges straight towards his opponent as a flaming rocket. If it manages to connect, he can KO opponents on low percentages. I've managed to KO people on 50% with a well-placed Flare Blitz, but using it does do 10% of damage to Charizard. And also, if you miss, he has a tendency to hurtles halfway across the map and, in most cases, over the edge. So,
I guess that gives a whole new meaning to Team Rocket is blasting off again.
Yeah, that's kind of pretty much it. It's a high-risk, high-reward move, which actually makes playing as Charizard incredibly fun. And he's actually become one of the mains I like to use, along with Donkey Kong's Sven the Crusader and occasionally Toon Link. So, I really like the way Charizard has come into more of his own character, and now has a more unique fighting style that appeals to me. I'm sure many competitive players are rolling their eyes and counting the ways I'm wrong, but hey, it's a fighting style I enjoy at the very least.
Yeah, and since when have we ever claimed to care about the opinions of competitive players?
Yeah, I mean, I can see where they're coming from, and I don't begrudge them anything, but yeah, I'm not part of that scene, and it's not really what I look for in characters, so...
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'm not a part of that scene, and I hate that that scene crossed over into Fire Emblem, so I am eternally bitter.
So yeah, those are my answers. What's our next question, Sven?
Our next question from Train Man.
Besides Mewtwo, what are some other characters you might like to see as future DLC characters or added to the next installment in the series?
Hey, a question that I can participate in, because I've already taken part in the poll.
Yeah, I should clarify before we get started. This question has a funny history, because it was originally said just after the announcement that Mewtwo was going to be available as DLC. And when I was first planning for this Smash Month, originally the only other bit of news we had was that Sakurai had gone on this long spiel about how he had overworked on Smash Bros. And it ravaged his body in. He also mentioned, I'm not particularly fond of the idea of DLC characters. We agreed to do Mewtwo, but I kind of regret it. So I was going to start off by saying DLC is out of the question, but I guess we can imagine what fighters to be like in future games. Then, out of nowhere, a Nintendo Direct came, which mentioned that not only is Lucas now a potential DLC, but, as Sven alluded to, Nintendo have announced, we are going to release a poll to the public to try and decide which characters will be in DLC.
Yeah, so either Sakurai changed his mind, or the rest of the dev team just didn't care enough.
Well, an interview has been released instead saying that Sakurai is now happy with the idea and he's working with a smaller team, so yay for positive outlooks, I guess.
I guess so. And yay for DLC now, because like I said, there's been a poll, and I participated, and the name that I entered is going to be my answer to this question, but I'm gonna let the expert go first.
I'm no expert by any means, but yeah, I actually entered the poll twice because they didn't add any restraints on it, which I think may come out to bite them in the ass. But the two choices I went for were Donkey Kong representatives, K. Rool and Dixie, because those are the two Donkey Kong characters I really, really want in Smash Bros. Otherwise, I'm pretty content for the most part. I mean, I was tempted to adding Lloyd Irving as a joke. Well, a half joke. I would still think it's really awesome if he did get in. And,
because, man, that would be a unique fighting style.
Oh, yes, indeed. Those are the two ones I really wanted. I'm always pretty content to just see what happens, because, funny thing, I forget the name of the site, I think it might have been Reddit, did a cross-vote with a bunch of other people of who they voted for in the poll, and the top 10 characters who potentially have the most votes, K-Rool's up there, which I'm really, really glad for, but among them are characters from the indie scenes, mainly Shovel Knight and Shantae, both of which I really like the idea of.
Huh, I did not even know that could be a thing.
Yeah, and some people have also suggested Ryu from Street Fighter, which I would actually be okay with. It's not like Ryu's not used to fighting strange opponents. There have been some grumblings that, Ryu's fighting style would be the exact same as Mario, but like I said on Twitter, that's probably just convinced Sakurai and his team to include him because he's a clone character.
Yeah, and on top of that, I would not be opposed to that because, in my head, Mario vs. Ryu is the stupidest, most awesome image.
The Shoryuken versus the coin fist.
I really need to write that death battle concept I had. But, yeah. Back to the topic at hand.
Actually, the funny thing is, speaking of said poll, Lloyd Irving was on there, with admittedly only a small following, but I'm glad he was on there. And, surprisingly, but one I would actually be okay with, Hector from Fire Emblem 7.
I am actually really surprised by that, because I thought most people completely forgot about that game.
Apparently not, according to that poll. But yeah, K-Rool and Dixie are the main ones I voted for. The only other thing I would like to see would be maybe one more F-Zero character, maybe Black Shadow. I honestly don't know enough about F-Zero to make a selection, as I found out the hard way when I suggested the villain Deathborn in a forum and got a very polite comment telling me to never suggest him over Black Shadow again.
Otakus.
Yeah, those are my opinions. Sven, who would you like to see?
Well, I voted for one character, and it's funny you mentioned Hector because my vote was Lyn from Fire Emblem 7. Mostly because, admittedly, I am a very biased fan of Lyn, like I'm a very biased fan of Lucina. But again, it comes down to fighting style. I'd mostly be happy with any Fire Emblem 7 representation at all. But really, I think Lyn would be the best choice for that, just because, well, you're talking about someone whose fighting style would probably basically just be Nanashi from Sword of the Stranger, plus really ridiculous critical animations.
It would either be that or something like Kenshin from, Rurouni Kenshin, where it's a fighting style based around quick draws, which would make sense since a lot of her battle animations are based around that. So I guess there's a unique element in that way. I'd say either her or Hector would be the best choice because, Anyone's just kind of the standard lord, so there wouldn't be anything unique you could do with him, but Lyn and Hector do have different enough fighting styles to make it worth a damn, or at least some variation. I know there's some intrepidation towards Fire Emblem characters because a lot of them do use the same moveset, but I think those two, you could make a moveset that's unique enough to make an actual difference, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Eliwood you really can't do much of anything with because he is literally both Marth and Roy.
Yeah.
But I'd be happy with either Hector or Lyn, but my vote goes to Lyn because I'm a bigger fan of Lyn, and because I just think that fighting style would look really, really cool.
I mean, I know Lyn's an assist trophy already, but so it might be difficult. But hey, I don't mind it getting an upgrade. I mean, several people are suggesting Waluigi. I don't know why, but...
Probably memes. It's always the damn memes.
Yeah, probably. It's probably the same reason Phoenix Wright got on the poll as well.
But did they already Marvel for... never mind. It's fans.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of fans, I don't mean to crush anyone's dream, but for the large chunk of people who voted for Roy, one question. Why?
Exactly. I mean, after all the overhyping and the disappointment that was Fire Emblem 10, I may not be terribly interested in Ike, but I'm more interested in Ike as a character and as a playstyle than I ever was in Roy.
Here's the thing about that. This is the reason why again, normally I wouldn't have any objection to fans wanting certain people back. It's why I don't have an objection to people wanting Wolf back or wanting Solid Snake back, because they were characters with their own variations of fighting styles, albeit existing ones in the case of Wolf, and they are individual characters in their own right for a popular series. So I can see why some people would want Snake or Wolf back because they were fans of that respective characters. But here's the thing. I honestly convinced, and if I'm wrong, please tell me, because I would like to be proved wrong on this, but I think the only reason people want Roy back is because he was in Melee and he looked cool with his fire sword. Because few people actually know who Roy is. They just know that he was a Fire Emblem character and he had the fatally cool sword. That's it. Otherwise, fighting-wise, Lucina covers that. That's part of the reason why she was brought in the first place. And in terms of character, there is nothing. If you go back and look at Fire Emblem 6, he's as bland as they come. He's basically Marth with red hair. That is his entire character and personality.
Yeah, and lest we forget that Roy was included as a marketing strategy for Fire Emblem 6 in Japan and Fire Emblem 7 in the West.
Well, even then, I think it was only for Fire Emblem 6. I mean, I guess Roy's popularity and the success of Advance Wars was what brought Smash over, so brought Fire Emblem over. Thank you, Tongue Slip. I'm glad he was in Melee for that reason, but let it go, guys. Time's moved on. Roy is not significant anymore.
No, and as a matter of fact, character-wise, he never was.
Yeah, so I mean, unless Nintendo ever actually did a 3D remake of Fire Emblem 6, which would be nice, I really don't see the point in Roy. But yeah, we're getting off topic now. Point is, we'd like to see Hector, Lynn, Cable, Dixie, and possibly an F-Zero character, but that's our full list at the moment.
Yeah, that's pretty much my answer, and I'm sticking to it, so.
And in the long-shot category, I would throw in Lloyd Irving, and I believe you would throw in Magnus Gowland from Ogre Battle.
Yeah, one of the characters from Ogre Battle. Even though I'm pretty much convinced that they would just be Ike clones.
Yeah, pretty much.
unless it was Ymil, in which case he would just be a Marth clone.
Could one of them use magic, or am I thinking of someone else?
Wait a minute. Ymil could use magic. Dark magic, in fact. Which we haven't had except in Ganondorf.
Yep.
Okay, retroactively changing the answer that I gave as a long shot whenever we were discussing this, I would like to see Ymil from Ogre Battle. Not least because he deserves to be cut a break somewhere, good god.
Indeed. But yeah, moving on to the next Smash Bros. Questions. This one is from Infinity Zero.
If you could direct the story of Super Smash Bros. 4, how would you improve on the Subspace Emissary?
Well, for one, I would write it into an actual story, rather than a collection of moving cutscenes.
Yeah, well, I think the main problem I have with Subspace Emissary is that they couldn't decide whether they wanted to keep it simple or throw in metric tons of lore, so it just ended up being a complete mess.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess, oh, there are so many things I want to add, it's not even funny. Well, first of all, I would try to have it set in actual parts of the Nintendo world instead of doing what Subspace Emissary did, which is, here we are in generic land.
Yeah. I mean, it may be odd to quantum leap between universes, but it would sure be more interesting than what we got. Which was a voice break.
It's not like they haven't done it before. I mean, something like Melee's Adventure Mode, where you're just, like, walking around maps that faintly resemble the games for a bit. That was fun, and it didn't outstay its welcome. Trying to have these pseudo-platforming levels in generic environments like they did in Subspace Emissary was, well, that was frankly dull.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I enjoyed the mode of Subspace Emissary, but the backgrounds and the actual levels could have been way more interesting. Like, oh my god, what I would have given, okay, to go into, like, the Fire Emblem universe and save Castle Crimea from Shadows with Meta Knight as your ally, that would have been stupidly cool.
Yeah, exactly. And on top of that, I would have preferred it if, like you said, just using enemies from the games instead of those weird subspace emissary things, because, I mean, if you're gonna have models for Power Bros, Goombas, and the like anyway, why not just use minions from the other games? If you have to create a truly unique big bad at the center of it all, just have it say, oh, they've taken control of the separate armies. I mean, they managed to more or less get away with it in Dragon Ball Xenoverse, so why not?
Yeah, and right now I'm just imagining, like, possessed fighters, mercenaries, and soldiers from Fire Emblem, and fighting them like, ow, my helmet.
Yeah, or even basic enemies like the Wizard would fit the bill. I mean, Sakurai started playing more of a series like Fire Emblem Awakening, so he can't feign ignorance now.
Yeah, and in fact, that would actually be a very brilliant way to introduce Fire Emblem enemies in a future Fire Emblem installment, because the Risen are literally just zombies.
Smash Bros. Installment. What is with us today? I would also add, as a personal aside, I would honestly prefer it if there was dialogue in the scenes. I mean, there are some characters who can't talk, I'm fine with that, and if you're really worried about localization issues, just do what you did in Hyrule Warriors, where there's a text box and the characters mouth the words and animations, but they don't actually say anything, like no audio comes out.
Yeah, or in Link's case, just have him use a music pseudo-sign language, because I, for some reason, really like the idea of Link just being a mute.
Yeah, that would all be perfectly fine. I think also, the other thing I would say about subspace writing is, for the love of God, make up your mind if you're trying to go with a simple action story, or this complicated drama with plot twists and lore attached to it, because that was the main problem with Subspace Emissary for me, is the fact that it just couldn't make its mind up. I said it before in my blog review, and I said it again. When you need to have a special page on your website to explain what the feck is going on to people who have completed your story, you're doing it wrong, frankly.
Yeah, again, if I were to make changes to Subspace Emissary, I would have actually written in plot and lore. Because as it is, the story can't make up its mind whether it's DBZ or Bleach.
I mean, the Subspace Emissary worked as a basic framework. I like the idea of it, and I actually also like the way they were pairing up various characters, because, again, to go back to my blog review, I'm one of the few people who actually liked the fact they teamed up characters with people you didn't expect. Like, I really like the one girl and her dog relationship Samus had with Pikachu during Subspace Emissary.
Yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite bits of the whole thing.
Yeah, and I loved Marth and Meta Knight as back-to-back badasses. That was cool.
Yeah, so I like that aspect of it. It's just the actual plot, it just couldn't make up its mind what it wanted to be, and it was a mess towards the end. I mean, once you got over the hype of, oh my god, this is awesome!
Yeah, the story itself really didn't hold up well, and also the actual gameplay was kind of generic.
So I guess the long and short of it is, draw in elements from other series, add dialogue, and decide what the heck you want to be.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I wouldn't mind it if you were trying to be Bleach with all the complex plot twists. Just make up your mind to be Bleach, and please be better written.
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing about Subspace Emissary. It's not entirely written by Sakurai, as most people think. They actually did get a writer. I really wish I could remember his name offhand, but the man they brought in was the guy who wrote most of the Final Fantasy series, from 7 to 12 onwards. The only game I think he didn't write was Final Fantasy 9, and that's only because for some reason Final Fantasy 9 doesn't credit its writers, but that's another thing. They actually got him to write the story. The problem was, and this is actually recorded in interviews, the guy wrote a story that was more comedic in nature. Like, apparently it included a scene where Donkey Kong, Samus, and Captain Falcon were all in the same bus heading towards a stadium or something like that. And Sakurai felt that wasn't serious enough, so he came up with a plot, and the writer filled in the gaps.
Wow. You know, I can't help but wonder what would have happened if he'd gone with his original plan. I mean, knowing that this guy wrote Final Fantasy VII, I'm not too terribly keen on imagining that, but
Yeah,
because
well,
Final Fantasy VII was grim, dark, central.
Yeah, well, in fairness, Final Fantasy VII was his first project, and that was co-written by him, the writer of Chrono Trigger and the creator of the franchise. Again, I really wish I could remember their names offhand. There are so many Japanese names to remember.
Okay, looking it up, Kazushige Nojima.
Thank you. So, in defense, Final Fantasy VII is not purely him. However, Final Fantasy X was, so still up in the air.
And Final Fantasy VIII was all his doing. No comment. Final Fantasy VIII, a game so boring that not even Let's Players can make it interesting.
Yes. But yeah, long story short, those are our ideas for Subspace Emissary. So, yeah, if you're interested in Sakurai, give us a call.
Our next question comes from the Infernity Zero, who asks,
Do you have a particular character in Smash Bros. That you would consider a rival for me? Mine is Philo Robin, since I'm a swordsman.
Well, this is an interesting one. I honestly haven't given that much thought to it. I mean, the closest I can think of is maybe a friendly rivalry with Donkey Kong, and that's mainly because my me is the brawler type, and I adjusted the stats so he'd be pretty much similar to Donkey Kong in that, like, he's somewhere between attack and defense, so he can take a lot of damage and then hit you back with it. So I kind of view it as a kind of goofy master and apprentice kind of thing.
I can totally see that. Man, that's such an amusing anime-esque image in my head.
You want to make it even more amusing? I will freely admit that there have been times when I actually do the calling out attacks when playing as the me.
I don't blame you in the least.
The only problem is I keep changing what the actual names of all the attacks are every once in a while, so it's a bit inconsistent.
Well, you could totally explain that in character by saying it's a distraction technique.
Yeah, that's true.
Whether it's for your opponent or for you is another question entirely. Oh my god, I need to play this game just because the inclusion of the me sounds so ridiculous and the possibilities are endless. Like the tactician from Fire Emblem 7.
Yeah, that is a fun option. Again, I really do like the me customization again. The only thing I dislike is, again, the different costumes you can get for the me. You get a handful at the start, and the rest are all random unlockables that are all under the generic name of custom parts, along with the custom moves and the stat-raising items. No, I am not going to let this go, and no, I don't know why they just haven't fixed it with an update yet, but what do I know?
Yeah, that sounds kinda crap, not gonna lie.
But yeah, I know technically you haven't played the game, but is there any character you'd probably consider a rival to your me?
With the characters that exist, I can only really think of two possibilities, and they're along the same lines as yours. Swordsman, sparring partners with Lucina. Magic user, sparring partners with Zelda. Because character-wise, those are my two favorite characters in that series. Actually, Brawler, sparring partners with Mario.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I guess if I was to include some of my other me's, only two spring to my head. Richard, yes, I do have a me of him. Richard's rival would probably be Mario, since Mario represents all the good in the Nintendo universe, and he's cheerful enough to get on his bad side.
That's the funniest image.
Stop being happy!
Richard is so annoyed by all the happiness, he goes Super Saiyan.
Yeah, more or less. I do also have me's of some of my Dragon Age characters, so even Jay's rival would probably be Ganondorf, since he is a painful reminder of the opponents she's had to face in the past. But the only slight problem with Yvonne is that I have to resort to the Sakurai excuse, which is, Yvonne never actually used a sword in the original quest, so Alistair must have taught her those moves.
Oh god, that's my story, I'm sticking to it.
That's the only thing I can think of, because sadly archery is not a character type.
As interesting as that would be, because, well, there is Zelda.
It was either go with a sword or give her an arm cannon for the gunner model, which doesn't really work.
No. No, because it's Dragon Age.
I guess I could mention the other me characters, but I have created a lot of me's in my time, so it's probably for the best if I don't.
Yeah, and I would delve into my characters, but I have a lot of them. And not one of them will anyone watching this know.
Yes, we better leave it there for now. So we'll move on to the last question, which comes from Toon Junkie and isn't Smash Bros related, but does have some kind of crossover competition aspect going with it, so I'm just including it for the sake of it.
Who would win a horse race on Mars, Superman or Jesus?
Well, if Death Battle has taught us anything, it is that Superman is the most broken thing in fictional media, so I'm gonna go ahead and say Superman.
I was planning to use the Death Battle thing for my answer as well, although mine would be Superman would win, and then thousands of people would dedicate the rest of their lives to trying to dispute it using YouTube videos.
Oh my god, that's such a ridiculous image. I mean, we are dealing with someone who, the last I checked, can fly at like 8 octillion miles per hour. I think Superman's got the J-Man beat.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jesus is an amazing person, but then again, this is the guy who's so humble that his preferred riding animal is a donkey.
Yeah, and it takes some serious humility to bring your dignity down that low, so
I guess that'd be my answer. Superman would win, but Jesus would have the moral victory anyway.
It's true. And now let all the Goku and Jesus comparisons begin.
Oh god, that's the last thing the Dragon Ball Z fans need. That brings this Q&A session to an end. Next month we go back to the usual fare with a lot more variety in questions, but this was definitely a fun diversion, I'm not gonna lie.
And it has made me look forward to finally playing Smash Bros. Whenever money happens.
Yeah. So, with that in mind, we now move on to...
Review, sir.
This is the section where we review something we've read, watched, or played this month. And, Sven, do you have anything to start?
Well, I do, but it's kind of a big one, so do you have anything?
I do, but it's also kind of a big one.
You go first, because I'm still kind of collecting my thoughts on my subject.
Okay, fair enough. In my case, I have played a video game, but a very big video game. One I'm sure people have been begging me to play for the longest time. It's a game made by Bethesda. It is a very well-known game, and I'm sure people are surprised that it took me this long to actually play it. Skyrim.
Ah, so you finally took an arrow in the knee. Again.
I was gonna say, do you mean outside of the reenactment stuff?
I forgot.
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty late to the party with this one. Skyrim is an open-world RPG, and the plot. It's set in the land of Skyrim, and there is a war between an empire and a rebellion. But who cares? There are dragons, and you are the destined dragonborn, so go kill them.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's funny whenever the Empire storyline takes a side seat.
I'm usually not quite so dismissive of the plot, but the thing you find out very quickly through Skyrim is that I said this was an open-world RPG, and the game basically makes those two worlds its entire core concept. There is a plot that you can follow with some quest lines, but that's not really the appeal of Skyrim. The appeal of Skyrim is more the choices you have. Like, it is basically a giant fantasy sandbox that you can go and play in. I mean, you already have a lot of unique options when you get to the character select screen. I mean, I can't think of the last time I had the option to be a half cat person or a half lizard person, or 3 types of elf, but...
Yeah, character creation in Bethesda is always pretty impressive.
Yeah, and a Viking on top of that, I can't forget those. Or Nords as they're called.
Yeah, a Viking who have their own race.
Yeah, apparently. Anyway,
Actually, just for the casual listener, there is an explanation for that. It's elves versus humans, and they're just divided into separate races, because even orcs classify as elves. I don't know about the Khajiit and the Argonians, but that's beside the point.
Wait, orcs are elves? What?
Like, some kind of weird offshoot that... You know what? I don't know. Just look it up on the Skyrim wiki. I can't explain it.
Okay, fair enough. Oh yeah, the basic of that is, there is a main plot, but you don't strictly have to follow it. I mean, it kind of unlocks some extra powers, but aside from that, you can pretty much just go anywhere you want, take any quest you want, and start your own miniature plotline. So that's the main appeal of this game. Like I said before, it's a fantasy sandbox. You get thrown into this world, and it's basically up to you what you want to do. And I honestly think it's a great game for Let's Players purely from that basis, because it's very easy to see how you could basically create your own character and have a series of adventures that's truly unique. I mean, yeah, you're going to be following the same quest lines, but there are so many different skills you can go about it in your own way, and there is also plenty of room for ridiculous mishaps, which, believe me, I've got several of my own.
Oh yeah, one of the many things Skyrim is known for, and in fact Bethesda in general.
Yeah, pretty much. So, point is, Skyrim is just really fun, well-crafted game. Like, there is definitely a charm in just sort of wandering around a place, overhearing a conversation, and then starting up another quest line and just getting the atmosphere of the place. I definitely do believe Skyrim deserves the praise it gets. Unfortunately, this makes the next part a bit more awkward in that I like Skyrim, I think it's good. It's not going to be one of my all-time favourites, though. It's not that I think anything is bad about Skyrim, it's just it doesn't quite appeal to my personal taste, and I think the best way I can sum it up is this. The website Game On Go, which I totally recommend checking out, by the way, it has this interesting idea where it's kind of silly to use the umbrella term gamer because everyone's going into a game for different reasons, and they came up with 3 types: challenge gamer, self gamer, and role gamer. I'm generally a role gamer. Like, sometimes I dip into stealth, but generally I like role playing through a game, especially RPGs, and I like either experiencing the story or creating my own story within it. Skyrim, I honestly feel, appeals more to challenge gamers in that you can do a lot in the world, but a lot of it relates more to accomplishments. Like, there's not so many character-driven stories or, like, very personal stories. It tends to be stuff like, last night I charged straight into the middle of this old temple and fought off a zombie army and snuck past this giant ogre in order to get this amazing treasure and achieve the highest rank in the mage college. You know, it's that kind of thing. It's like a series of accomplishments, which is enjoyable in its own way, but it's not the type of thing that keeps me drawn into a game, if that makes any sense.
I completely get you, and that is why, even though I do really like Skyrim, I've come across 2 problems playing it. 1, my computer sucks at playing it, but that's my own fault. And 2, it's not role enough for me. Because I'm like you, whenever I go into a role-playing game, I go into a role-playing game to play a role. And I stick strictly to that because I'm a writer, that's what I do. And Skyrim, even though it's good as far as role-playing goes, it's not like some of Bethesda's previous games, by which I mean, it's not like the Fallout series. Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas are insanely role-intensive, because the main plots are very, very personal to your character, and pretty much all of the quests can be personalized to be done the way you want them to be, true to the way that you play your character, and build your character. Whereas Skyrim pretty much all just lead to the same outcome.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you can do kind of whatever you want in Skyrim, but otherwise, it is mainly more about the accomplishment, like the list of accolades you can add to your character. I mean, it actually got to the point where the only way I could really roleplay was rebelling against the system, by which I mean, the character I created was Fairy, who was a high elf, and because I wanted to try and find some way to roleplay, because the dialogue wasn't giving me many options to do that, I basically made it so that Fairy was a rogue with a heart of gold, and to do this, I basically made her an exhibitionist with a drinking problem.
Oh, there are worse characters to play in that game.
Yeah, it's not like she ran around in her skippies or anything like that, but it's pretty much, she basically went with either dresses or any armour that showed as much skin as possible, so she mainly walks around in the fur armour most of the time.
To be fair, though, that is a hilarious concept.
That roleplay got so out of hand that there are moments when I'm just randomly walking through a dungeon and I'll just go into my inventory and grab one of the ale bottles. It has a very minimal effect gameplay-wise, but it's just something that...
And it's in character.
Yeah, so...
That's the same with Skyrim. just as a personal note, why I love New Vegas so much is that I can go just ludicrously in-depth with my characters in that I can think them out to the finest hairline detail. Like the last time I played, I think it was a thief turned courier who sets out to start a new life, but ends up getting dragged into the mess to end all messes. And I actually gave perhaps an unreasonable amount of thought into that backstory, and I really loved the character. With Skyrim, you play him using archetypes. That's really all you have to do.
Yeah, pretty much. It's really the other thing you can do, and that would be okay in itself, because it would just be a case of switching mindsets, but at the same time, there is also... I'm trying to think of the best way to explain this, like... There's just something lacking in the atmosphere. Like, don't get me wrong, Skyrim does have some amazing set pieces in its plot. Like, I really love the first dragon encounter in Whiterun, where you run out to protect the forts, and unlike the climb up the stairs to the other dragon shout users, I forget that...
The Greybeards.
Yeah, I just remembered they were called the Greybeards. I was hoping they were called something else, but no, they literally are the Greybeards.
Yeah, they sound like characters in One Piece. That is not a criticism of One Piece, that's a criticism of this game.
Yeah, because Greybeard sounds like a nickname someone would come up with to disparage them. It doesn't sound like a race of people who are dedicated to a sacred art.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like an ancient revered order.
Yeah, I like the climb towards the Greybeards. Those were cool moments, but otherwise, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe this. One of the other selling points that it's an often overlooked point, but it can make or break the story, especially in a game where you get to exploit it, is that sometimes the world itself needs a character as well. Like, for example, Skies of Arcadia is a bright, colourful world with various different cultures and this overwhelming sense that the next adventure is just around the corner. Xenoblade has a large, wondrous world that feels alien but familiar at the same time. Heck, even worlds like Phaedos from Dragon Age or Westeros from Game of Thrones don't seem like the greatest places to live, but you're still drawn to them because of the rich history and political intrigue that goes on within them. The atmosphere of Skyrim, I don't know what it is, there's just something that seems kind of bland about it, and at first I thought maybe it was the realism, the fact that the world seemed too realistic, but no, after exploring the whole capitals for a bit, there is enough variance in that, and I will say this, Skyrim's overworld does have some vast, beautiful landscapes to look over, so it's not to do with that, it's more with its civilians, because there seem to be two prominent types of civilians I keep coming across. The first... Okay, I'm going to use another example for this. I know I've been using it a lot, but in Final Fantasy VII Abridged, there is a scene in one episode where the party is trying to find Cloud who's gone missing. And they're wandering around a village, not having much luck, and then they suddenly come across two villagers who are loudly having a conversation that goes like this.
I'm sure that's what he would have wanted.
Hey, did you hear about that blonde guy they found just off the coast?
The one with the spiky hair?
The same! Well, they confirmed that the giant sword they discovered later belongs to him!
Really? How did they surmise that?
They found a registration card for it in his wallet along with his ID, which read, and I quote, Cloud Strife, male born August 19th, blood type AB.
Fascinating! Perhaps when we have time we should visit the poor soul at the hospital just up the road!
Yeah, there's a lot of that in Skyrim, and it gets to be kind of ridiculously over-convenient.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is the civilians dumping large chunks of exposition, whether it be about their personal life or about the incredibly intricate, incredibly detailed lore, which I don't care about. Just recently, before we started recording, I tried visiting the Bards College because I figured, okay, well, bards are usually associated with dance and music, and I don't think they're related to spies, at least not in this universe, so I'll see how that plays out, what benefits that gives me in battle. And the first thing the guy comes out with is, I would love for you to join this college. Unfortunately, there is an ancient festival which we used to do today, but unfortunately it has now been banned. The only way to get this festival unbanned is to remind everyone of the roots of this festival, which is located in an ancient poem, which was lost years ago, but we have just found. You know, it's...
Yeah, it's it's a bit too contrived, basically.
That's not to say none of the NPCs are given personality. They are. But this leads into the second problem I have, which is, my God, the people of Skyrim are grumpy.
Yeah, but this is gonna lead into a complaint that I've had with the game, so please, go ahead.
Yeah, the only way they can figure out to express personality is to act dismissive or outright grumpy towards you. Like, the guards, every single time you walk past, they'll say something like, you disrespect the law and you disrespect me, or stop lollygagging. Even the ridiculous repeated arrow to the knee quote, it's basically just a guard grumbling of, oh yeah, I used to be an adventurer and then I took an arrow to the knee, now I'm stuck in this job. Like, even when you go into bloody shops, like I went into like a clothing and armor store and their literal first reaction is, oh god, yay, let me just drop everything so I can talk to you. You know, it's just...
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for cynical characters, but this is a bit much.
Yeah, that's the problem is, like, the only time people express personality is when they get into being grumpy and dismissive towards you, and I'm just thinking, why the hell am I in this world? No one wants me to be there, clearly.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, that does lead me into my biggest complaint with Skyrim, so may I take it from here?
Yeah, sure.
Regarding the plot, even though it's kind of throwaway, I would have loved the rebellion plot, because I'm a sucker for that cliche, if the rebellion plot could not basically be boiled down to the clash of the douches.
So, I take it Ulfrid Stormcloak is not a cheerful man, then?
No, the Stormcloaks are all a bunch of open racists.
Wow, really? I mean, I didn't get a chance to speak to the rebellion yet, so...
Yeah, like, half of the Stormcloak dialogue is just, like, generic stick it to the Empire stuff, and the other half is pretty much hating on anyone who is not a Nord. And it's openly stated that Ulfric Stormcloak openly lets raiders go free so long as they are not attacking Nords. That is literally the only time he steps in.
Oh, God.
And then you have the Empire on the other side, with General Tullius as the dismissive dickhead, but I did like his lieutenant more than I liked the Stormcloak lieutenant.
Yeah. Now, normally in this game, I'm trying to ignore all of the grumpy people and just focus on the positives, like talk to the more positive people. It's one of the reasons why I stayed in Whiterun most of my playthrough. And the instant I had this realization that character was the problem was after defending Whiterun from a dragon attack. My character Fairy was awarded the title of Thane of Whiterun, and as such was given her first companion, who was sworn to serve her. She was named Lydia. Now, I was actually really excited about getting a companion, and I instantly turned to her, naively thinking it'd be something like Dragon Age, where I could talk to her and find out her life story. I mean, I was able to get the life story of everyone else in the goddamn village, so I thought maybe I'd get her personal life story. She has none.
Yeah, that's another issue I take with Skyrim. The NPC followers have all the personality of a fish.
Yeah, you get no option to actually interact with them. Most of the time, you can talk to them, but it's from a list of options. Follow a command, carry my stuff, or go away. That is literally the only options. They might as well be pets at this point. And
yeah, that's a sad thing. And I would like to append something to this. Apparently, all these NPCs are given more personality in the 3 DLCs they released for Skyrim, which I just find sad. That they pretty much literally had to release Skyrim DLC Personality Edition.
Yeah, that's a bit ridiculous. And also in Lydia's case, here's the thing. I came across the town, I think it was Videf, I forget the exact name, but it's along those lines. And I ended up in the Temple of Mara. And this is when I found out about marriage, or at least how it works in Skyrim. Okay, the idea there is that you can indeed marry any NPC, including your followers. However, it is based on an incredibly flimsy premise, is that apparently the world of Skyrim is so miserable that no one bothers with courtship. Instead, all you have to do is wear a specific amulet to let everyone know that you're thinking about it, and then directly ask someone, which is an incredibly flimsy premise, but just rolling with it. At this point, Lydia had been following me for a long time, and even though, as Sven says, she had all the personality of a fish, I was determined to rebel against the system and decide, you know what, Lydia, we've been through a lot together, let's marry. So I donned on the amulet and turned round to face her. She would not respond. She just stared there blankly as my character was wearing what is essentially a gigantic engagement ring round her neck, but and she still bluntly refused. So, in the end, the person my character fairy ended up marrying was a woman named Ogren the Unbreakable. Fairy's only encounter with said woman beforehand was a bar fight she got into whilst drunk.
Oh my god. Is this... I literally, seriously have to ask now. Are we in Skyrim or Vegas?
Yeah, I should also add, Ogren probably didn't have a very good impression of Ferry, as I should mention, this fight was also one of the few times I took off every bit of equipment and she was in her skimpies because I was that bored, so...
Oh my god. It is really surreal to look at the level of character depth in Skyrim and then compare it to Fallout New Vegas, which I maintain is Bethesda's best game. Because the level of character depth in New Vegas is, it's basic, but it's deep enough that you can enjoy it. The level of character depth in Skyrim is so shallow, it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's the main turn-off point for me, especially since after the big marriage, after Olga decided to spend the rest of her life with the woman who came up to her naked and had a fist fight with, Olga follows you around like the party PC, except you get two options. Give me money and cook something for me. That is...
Yeah, yes. Oh, man, looking at that, I am kind of glad that Fallout New Vegas never had a romance option, because Bethesda apparently sucks at it.
Yeah, so, like I said, I don't want to give the option that Skyrim's a terrible game. It is still a well-crafted adventure game. It's just that lack of character is the main reason why it doesn't appeal to me in the long run. It's a great game, it's just not one of my personal favourites. That's the best way I can sum up my feelings on Skyrim.
Yeah, and really, I would agree, and I would add the caveat that for all of those people who are kind of exasperated by how ridiculous and flat the characters and story are in Skyrim, play New Vegas.
If you're not bothered by the character stuff and just want to throw yourself in a fantasy world and do whatever the heck you want, Skyrim is definitely the perfect game for you in that regard.
Yeah, just ignore the fact that pretty much everyone in the world is either an asshole or the equivalent of a high-functioning plankton with a face.
Yeah. So Sven, you have something to review this month?
Yeah, believe it or not, I do, and I guess you could consider this the return of an old section of Monkey Broadcast, because longtime viewers may know that I rather famously quit the manga review section of Monkey Broadcast with the phrase, "Nuts to your berries, Jonin, I'm out." But something's happened to change that. For better or for worse. And that something is the release of Naruto Gaiden Chapter 1. Or in other words, the first time I've been legitimately interested in Naruto in 300 chapters and 8 years.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from then. I have read this first chapter too, although admittedly only because Sven pointed out, hey, this has been released. And I was like, what, really?
Yeah, I don't even know how I figured out that Naruto Gaiden was released. It was some post on Tumblr or something, and then I read it and I was like, well, my first initial reaction was, okay, this is surprisingly engaging with a hefty side of disbelieving fury. But since then I've managed to kind of calm my opinion into something a bit more collected, so that's pretty much the sum of my review. The mini sequel, I guess, to Naruto, even though they said that they were 100% honestly and truly done. Cough, cough.
Yes, I'm pretty sure that this is a once-in-a-lifetime diversion. There is no way they're making... Oh, wait, they're making an animated movie based on the kids as well. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, and let's not forget that this is just Chapter 1.
Yeah, so, just to bring new viewers up to speed, Naruto is a Japanese comic series based around young kids in a ninja village who want to become the best ninja there is, basically.
Yeah, and to chronically deal with some really messed up family situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, spoilers, that didn't change with peacetime.
No. So, the basic premise of these Naruto Gaiden chapters, for anyone who cares, Gaiden is Japanese for side story. The basic premise of this chapter is to have a look at the kids that were introduced in the very, very, very last chapter of Naruto.
Yeah, which I'm appreciative of to begin with, because I was interested in their concepts, even though I long stopped giving a shit about their parents ages ago. But I am appreciative of the concept, and for the most part, you can agree or disagree with me on this, the first chapter of this did not disappoint, even though the emotions it riled in me were conflicting, to put it diplomatically.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you. I mean, putting aside the one thing that happens towards the end, we're going to get into that, but it's a bit of a sticking point. But on the first chapter, I thought it was pretty good, and I'm actually kind of reminded of the first chapter of Naruto in that it establishes the basic character. Like, when I first saw that it was going to be based on Salada, Sasuke and Sakura's daughter, I thought, oh boy, this is going to be tedious, because I'd actually pegged Salada to be an incredibly annoying character, but she was actually presented in a kind of likable way. The other side characters do seem to have their own gimmicks, like Choji's daughter. The jokes of her weren't that funny, and Shikamaru's kid is just literally just Shikamaru smaller. But
yeah, that was an issue I did have with that.
But yeah, I'd agree with you. It's definitely been the most interesting, I guess, because it has gone back to more of the character stuff and less to do with, oh my god, the world is about to end, let's unleash the super duper awesome super secret ninja technique.
Yeah, because really the appeal of Naruto was the character stuff, and then it went DBZ, or Bleach, and I'm not sure. No, Bleach is way worse. I am sure which one of the two is the worst of those, so... So to be perfectly honest, it was nice to see a return to actual introspective character focus, and like you, I was actually reasonably surprised to end up liking Sasuke's daughter, considering my opinion of her father.
Yeah, and considering her mother, because my respect for her has gone down, and unfortunately this chapter hasn't helped with that, because just before the last scene... Okay, I should probably explain something about Salada. Do you mind if I go ahead with this, or...?
Yeah, you go right ahead, because really you're better at explaining Naruto than I am anyway.
Okay, fair enough. The main crux of this chapter is, it will soon be the ninja exam, where the school students will get the chance to become genin, or rookie ninjas, and Salada's kind of having an introspective moment, because she's looking at the way the parents interact, or more specifically, the children interact with their fathers, including Bolt and Naruto. Yeah, I should probably explain this. The English translation of these names is incredibly inconsistent, even if, like I recently did, you subscribe to the official English version of Shonen Jump, because sometimes Naruto's son is referred to as Bolt, and other times it's Boruto. This time round I used Bolt because personally I think it sounds better, and knowing how the Japanese tend to pronounce English names, I have a feeling that Boruto is meant to be Bolt anyway. As for Sasuke's daughter, that's a little tricky because, fun fact, the Japanese have a tendency to use the same character for both R and L. So, we're not 100% sure if her name is Salada or Sarada. And unfortunately, I think I keep switching names in the review. So, yeah, just keep in mind that Sarada and Salada are the same character. And, yeah, I'm hoping we get an official translation that puts an end to all of this. But anyway, back to the review. So she's kind of having this identity crisis, the fact that Sasuke is never around. And she starts talking to Sakura about this, and... Okay, well, first off, there are two bits. First off, the only time we see Sakura in this... She's putting out the laundry. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with women doing housework, I'm just saying that it's kind of unfortunate that we see every single main character in the series go on to bigger and greater things, and the only time we ever see Sakura is doing housework.
Yeah, it's a constant chronic problem with that character, and part of the reason why my opinion of Sakura is more disappointment and almost pity than it is annoyance, because God, Kishimoto seems to have a thing against her.
Yeah, I mean, and this isn't just because she's the female character, it's because she's one of the 3 people who saved the f***ing world!
Yeah! God, she's pretty much been given a side seat to the entire subcast.
Yeah, but anyway, they have the discussion. Sarada calls Sakura out on the fact that their relationship is incredibly weird. She claims that Sasuke is her father, but Sasuke is never around and she's never seen them have any kind of romantic connection with each other. So then she asks the question, did you actually marry Sasuke?
To cut in here, reasonable question.
Yeah, very reasonable given their weird relationship. So Sakura, she has this moment where she punches the ground out of pure rage, and because she has super strength it starts cracking. And the reason I mention this is because it leads to a weird mood whiplash, because Sakura then, she kind of gets into a speech about how Sasuke is on an incredibly important mission, which I can say, no he's not, he's just kind of wandering around, but anyway,
Yeah, might I add, entirely for his own benefit for all we know.
Yeah, so, yeah, the point is, it's kind of this very stark but kind of sweet tender mode where she's kind of explaining, look, even though he's not here, your father can understand your feelings. And then it takes a very hard, very painful swerve towards comedy, as it turns out Sakura punched the ground so hard that it's still crumbling and demolishes their house. And the last 2 panels we see of Sakura are her looking aghast at the fact that the house is destroyed and she is only just paid the loan for it. And then apparently she's passed out then the next.
Yeah, like, oh my god. Words cannot describe just how ridiculous that is. I mean, as far as the slapstick moment goes, I can kind of accept it because this is the Naruto universe where people have been shown to be able to rebuild houses with a flick of their finger. Looking at you there, Yamato. But it's just that, God, character-wise, this is just so, it's, I don't know the best word for it, I guess undignified and ridiculous.
This then leads into a moment when Sarada decides to go back and collect some of the personal artifacts from the rubble that was her house, and do you want to handle this one, Sven, or shall I?
Well, the best way that I can describe what happens is either Kishimoto gave way too much serious thought to the Sasuke Karin theories going around Tumblr, or he's just trolling us, because Sarada finds the only picture in her house of Sasuke and Sakura together, and it turns out that Sakura was just pasted on over a picture of Team Hawk in Karin's place.
Yeah.
Now, just because of all the media openly describing Sarada as Sakura's daughter, I don't seriously think that Kishimoto would go there, but the fact that he's even entertaining this annoys me, because it's just so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just the photo thing, if you're thinking Sarada's overreacting, it's also the fact that Sarada wears glasses, and she points out that neither Sasuke or Sakura wears glasses, so she's wondering why she has to wear glasses, and yeah, Karin wears glasses, so that's leading the connection, and like you, I don't think Kishimoto's actively going with it. I mean, it would be a surprise if he did, but I'm guessing it's gonna be more in the theory that this is all a big misunderstanding, and Sasuke will reveal something that says, you are my true daughter and I love you, blah 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 blah. But I do agree, it is really baffling to read, especially since, again, it's yet another blow to Sakura in that, for feck's sake, you already made her completely redundant. She keeps getting the short straw, so the only success she's had finally getting the man she's been chasing after the entire series for whatever reason, And they put out the possibility, again, not confirmed at the time of recording, the possibility that Sanada's not actually her daughter. Her only victory is that Sasuke says, you know what, Sakura, I trust you with this kid that neither me or Karin wants, but...
Yeah, and again, I doubt Kishimoto is that bad a writer that we would go with that, because that's just Spanish soap opera levels of stupid right there. But the fact that it's even being entertained is just kind of silly and depressing.
Yeah, I'd say that's where the main myth comes from, but personally speaking, I did enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to reading the rest of the chapters, and but otherwise I'm really enjoying this so far, awkward plot moments aside. How about you, Sven?
Yeah, so far I'm not disappointed with the next generation. I want to see more of the rest of the cast, but God, the very fact that Kishimoto has managed to make me like Sasuke's daughter is monumental, because we've all been over what we think of Sasuke. But
yeah.
So far, I really don't have any complaints. I will do if Kishimoto goes the Spanish soap opera route. Trust me, I will have many complaints then. But for right now, I'm enjoying it. And as a post note to this, I am tentatively hoping that the reason Sasuke is never around is because someone finally realized that Orochimaru still exists. Because someone should have.
Yeah.
No, seriously, that is the only explanation I will accept. I will accept for him not being around for his family at all for 12 years. Because, to be honest, keeping Orochimaru from hijacking his daughter would be surprisingly noble.
Yeah. And because this is an ongoing weekly series, which is still continuing even after our original recording, we're going to quickly add in a new segment called...
Flash Forward!
I would never have dared try to sing that myself, so props to you, sir.
Yeah, this is to quickly review the chapters that have come out the rest of the month, so we're not too far behind when this podcast is released. That said, not a lot has happened since then.
Yeah, I mean, we've had antagonists, and I swear to God, Sarada's life has become a comedy of errors at this point. But other than that, yeah, not really that much has happened. Just kind of the same plot thread as the first chapter.
Yeah, the second chapter vaguely establishes an antagonist, which is, well, two antagonists. There is someone in a robe, as of yet they haven't revealed who it is, and this weird onion-headed kid with Sharingans who apparently wants to kill Sasuke because he is a disgrace to the Uchiha or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not buying this kid as an actual Uchiha, not least because, well, he looks like an onion and not an Uchiha.
Yeah. And our heroes get involved because it's established that Sasuke has sent a message to Naruto about this, which leads to one kind of amusing but also a strange conversation where Sasuke sends this message by Hawk, and Naruto comments, "Oh god, Sasuke is so old-fashioned," and Shikamaru goes, "Well, he goes into places that doesn't have regular phone signal, so cut some slack," which is mildly amusing, but it's also kind of odd because one odd aspect about this series is that they are incredibly inconsistent as to how much technology these guys actually have.
Yeah, I think there's a trope for this on TV tropes. Anachronism stew.
Huh.
Basically, whatever your series technology is just a mishmash of what's cool. And not what's period accurate.
That fits the series perfectly now.
Yeah. Although I will admit these last few chapters have given rise in my head to the amusing image of selfie no jutsu. But that doesn't stop it from not making sense.
Yeah. And yeah, otherwise it's been fairly standard. Sanada and, for some reason, Choji's kid decide to follow Naruto, and as a last chapter it's also revealed that they apparently want to capture Sanada because... Reasons? I don't know.
We said that at the exact same time. That's how much we know at this point.
Yeah, at this point it's just about moving the characters into place. After that first chapter, there haven't been that many big plot threads, so Yeah, I'm hoping it picks up, because at the moment it starts off with a good opening chapter and now it's kind of coasting.
Yeah. Admittedly, the original manga started out kind of like this, but I don't want to have to wait that long until it starts getting good again.
Good point. So, yeah, I guess the long and short of our review of this series so far is we're enjoying it, it has some good elements, but we're hoping to get answers sooner rather than later.
Yeah, that's about the best way of putting it, and I will still maintain that I'm still enjoying this way more than I did the last 350 chapters of the actual series.
Well, they haven't started an all-out war which brings a massive amount of background information no one knew or asked for.
And is then used as the setting for the final conflict in the same saga.
Yeah, let's just move on.
Point is, we're enjoying it, but we want answers.
Indeed. Back to original recording. And on that note, this would normally be where we go into
Quickfire reviews.
to end it all off by reviewing everything else we've read, watched, or played, but within a maximum time limit of 60 seconds. But the only thing I have to review is something I've already mentioned on Twitter, and a series I'm more than likely going to cover in Monkey Broadcast once it's finished, and I'm not sure if Sven has anything to review, but I am sure that he has a very sore throat now.
And luckily I don't have anything to review, so that works out for me.
So yeah, for this month, I think we'll end it on those two big reviews. Once again, thank you to everyone who's sent in questions. Please keep them coming. They make for a very entertaining show. And if there's any games or movies you think we would like, do what Sven's going to do after this recording and give me a long list of reasons why I should play or watch or read the thing you want me to do.
Yes. Again, exactly what I'm going to do with Fallout New Vegas.
But for now, it's time for us to sign this podcast off. I've been the Jonin Monkey.
And I've been Sven the Crusader. Normally I'd say something snarky, but my throat would kill me.
That was Monkey Broadcast, a monthly review and discussion show hosted by the Jonin Monkey and Sven the Crusader. If you feel you've been the subject of slander or that your copyright was misused, send an email to thejourneymonkey@yahoo.co.uk. For more news and media reviews, follow me on Twitter @thejourneymonkey and go to thejourneymonkey.podbean.com for previous podcasts and MP3 downloads. All music used belongs to the original owners. Until next month, have fun, kids!